Alrighty guys, so it's 2:41 over here and I just finally came up with the answer to a problem that has been for like 3 years, that has been around for 3 years in 2D games. Basically, that's mouse detection. I don't know, it was complex, right? It was very complex to how to do this with all the other methods I saw on YouTube and whatnot. So I kind of just thought about what's going on and I came up with a solution, a workaround solution. So basically, I can click on an object with my mouse and things happen how it's supposed to. Okay. So yeah, there we go. So essentially, let's talk about how I did this. So what I did is first, well, there's a handful of things. The first thing you need to do is if you're using the new input system, go to your player settings, go to the input system, active input handling, and select both. Okay. Once you do that, then let's go ahead and talk about making an empty object here called mouse object. Alright, this is what I did. Now I'm going to go over what I did real quick, then I'll open up a brand new project and we'll build it from scratch all the way to where it is in here. Okay, but just to give you a rundown. So on the mouse object, you need, if you wanted to have an image, obviously a sprite renderer, but essentially a rigid body, 2D, no gravity, none of that stuff, freeze rotation on Z. Alright, the box look collider, 2D, make sure it's a trigger, and then of course set the size of your trigger correctly, however you want it. And then we have to give it a script called mouse, well, I called it mouse object follow. So in that script, this is what I did. I first set up a transformer here, and then I made sure I'm getting the transformer on this object. I put it into a don't destroy on load because essentially when I'm done with my game, I'm going to have this in the very first screen, so I don't have to worry about it ever again. In update, I make sure the position of this mouse object stays where the mouse is on the screen. Alright, and we're going to talk about this. Let's go ahead and talk about it now. This third one right here, near clip plane, this was giving me a problem because it's first, if you go to your camera, right, this was not here. At first I think it was like 1. I think it was like 1 or something like that, right? So if I hit play when it's at 1, see, you can see what's going on, correct? Well, essentially I think what happened is it put the image on the same Z-axis, so essentially it kind of grew in size. Don't quote me on that, but it looks like that's what happened. You know, so yeah. So basically, in order to fix that, and in order to make things work correctly, like clicking wise and all that stuff, I basically have to make sure the clipping plane equals the positive value of the camera's position. So the camera is -16, which means my clip needs to be +16. Now if we look in 3D, we can see what's kind of going on here. Okay, so right now if I put this back at 1, you see the clip plane went closer to the camera. If I bring it to 16, wait a second, if I take it to 16, it's basically zeroed out on the actual game screen. Okay, and that makes a big difference. As you can see, it makes a very huge difference. So yeah, I did that. That's what you have to do with your camera. And then let's go back to the code. So after I make sure the position is the same as the mouse, this offset is just to make sure the trigger on the mouse object is where I want it to be. But then I make a method here, or a function, whatever. Guys, it's like almost 3 in the morning. Okay, you just gotta bear with it. But essentially, I make another method here. All right, inside that method, we're going to grab the object that we collided with. Basically, this stops the player from clicking on one object, and somehow, if they're able to move like 10 milliseconds, they can click on one object, drag to another object, and then the code will act as if they clicked on that object. Now, nobody is going to be able to really move 10 milliseconds, okay? But let's just say someone did. This prevents that, okay? Then inside this on trigger stay, we check to see if the player presses the mouse button, left mouse button. If they do, we just check to see what tag it is. Now we can have multiple tags after tags. We can be looking for a clickable wall, we can be looking for a treasure chest, we can be looking for whatever, okay? Once we find that tag, we then look for the script on that object, because you can see we stored the object in here. So the object that we clicked on, we're looking for a script, and inside that script we're looking for a variable called clicked self. Well, yeah, we'll just leave it at that for now. We're gonna go look at that script anyways. Click self. So in this script, this is on the clickable wall. I have a private bool called isClick equals false. Now I made it private because when I made it public and I actually clicked on the wall, for some reason it would make both of the walls disappear. I don't know why, because it really shouldn't have, but nevertheless I just made it a private bool, okay, and I make it false. Then this method that we're actually calling right here, we're calling a method click self. This method is public, and this method simply checks if isClick is false. If it is, then it makes it true. This also makes sure you can't double click on the item unless you want to do that, okay? Now when it's true, that basically means this item was clicked, or this object was clicked. So you can do whatever you want inside this isClick condition. Alright, in my case, I'm having it somewhat disappear. You know, I take away the sprite renderer, or not take it away, but it's timed. So if there's time left in the timer, then I disable the sprite renderer and the collider, thus making it seem like it disappeared, okay? And then when the timer is at 0, then I bring it back, reset it, and tell it isClick false. I tell it that it can be clicked again, okay? So it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And that's why I want to go ahead and open up a empty project and kind of show you how this will be, okay? So I have an empty project here. Go ahead, make an empty object, right click, create empty. Look, this isn't a tutorial, like, well, I guess it's a tutorial. What am I saying? Dude, okay, it's early. Okay, it's early. Create an empty object. All right, call it obj_mouse. Make sure you give it a sprite renderer. Make sure you give it a rigid body 2D. Okay. Constraints, freeze rotation on Z. Make sure you give it a collider. Whatever collider you give it, make sure it is a trigger. Okay, that's essential. Alright, then you can go ahead and make an object wall. Let's just move it right here, I guess, for now. Go ahead and do that. And we'll give this a tag. Wall. Alright, let's just do new wall. Okay. We'll give it the new wall tag, and we'll keep it the name wall tag. And I'll just show you two ways of accessing it. Okay. So now let's go to our camera. Alright, we want to make sure that wherever our camera is, it is the positive value of that. So if it's -10, we want to put the clipping plane at 10. Now there's probably a better way of doing this instead of messing with the clipping planes. But hey, for 3 years, nobody was able to come up with a simple solution. So this is the most simplest I thought of. I don't know if that's because I thought of this like around 1 or 1240-ish. So yeah. Then the next thing we need to do is make a script. Okay. So inside of here, let's wait, what? Here, let's just create a script here. We're just gonna call this mouse because it's too early in the morning to actually type any word longer than that. Alright, so let's go ahead and just drag this over here since we have a slot. And we put the mouse script on object mouse. Alright, let's go ahead and double click this. Alright. I don't know why I'm gonna delete that. Yeah, I don't need to delete it. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do, let's go ahead and set up a private transform. Okay, we're just gonna call this location. Keep it nice and simple. And I'm looking at what I've made over here so that it can just go nice and smoothly. I don't have any time right now for all this arrows and stuff. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the transformer of this game object. Okay, the transform of this game object. And you don't have to do this unless you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and then put this game object into the do not destroy unload. Awesome. So basically, yeah, okay. Now in here, we're going to keep position updated with mouse. Okay. So what do? We do location dot position is equal to camera dot main dot screen. Where is it? Screen to world point. Okay. Inside of here, we're going to make a new vector 3. Okay, give it some brackets. Let's go ahead and make a few enters so that we can read it better. The first area of the vector 3 will be at input dot mouse position dot x. The second one will be the mouse position dot y. The third one will be the camera dot main dot near clip plane. Okay. And then we can close all that. So we keep the mouse position. Okay. Then we're going to make the function. Okay. Now in here we have a private void on trigger stay. We're going to do on trigger stay because we're trying to see if you're clicking on an object that the mouse is over. Now you can do whatever you want. You know, if you want something to happen when you exit, enter, you know how to use Unity. Okay, but we're looking for on trigger stay. Since we're doing 2D, we need 2D. Actually, that's incorrect. It's not because we're doing 2D. It's because we're using a rigid body 2D. You know, we're using colliders 2D, and so because we're using the 2D versions of the rigid body and colliders and stuff, we need to make sure we're using the 2D version of this method. It's, yeah, just that. Alright, we'll change that to other. Now, let me look at my code over here. Okay, so yeah, so the first thing you want to do to make sure you can prevent any kind of like cheats or bugs in your game is store the object that the player has the mouse on. Okay, so we're just going to call that nobj for now, and that's going to equal other.game object. Good, that's the first thing. We stored it, that's cool. Now we can continue. So now we're going to check if the player pressed the mouse button, the left mouse button, which is 0. And I need some drink, so hold on. Okay, so if the player pressed this, we're going to tell the object that it was pressed, right? The object that we pressed, or the object that we did the left mouse button press on, we're going to tell that object that we clicked on it. The way we're going to do that is we're going to grab the game object that we stored in this variable. We're going to go get component. Okay, and let's just call whatever script is on the wall. So real quick, let's call this wall. Okay, and then we're going to create a method inside the wall object, and that method will be called clicked self. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Boom. We're going to comment it out for right now, because if we don't, I think Unity's not going to let us proceed. So now on the wall object, okay, we're going to create a script. We're going to call it wall. Okay. Let's go ahead and double click the wall. All right. Okay. So this is the mouse object over here. Okay, so on the wall, we're going to create a private bool called we're just gonna call it self is clicked, and it's gonna start off equaling false. Okay, then we're going to make the public variable, or not public variable, the public method function, and we're just going to name this clicked self. All right, and inside of here we're just going to do self is click equals true. Now I know this is basically a getter setter essentially, right? But doing it, yeah, it is basically a getter setter. You can set this up right here, this false and this true, up a couple of different ways. Pick whichever way you're gonna do it. All right, but for this tutorial, yeah, we're gonna do it like that. Now we can come back over here and uncomment this, and boom. So now we basically can tell this object that this object was clicked, and the way we do that is here, telling object it has been clicked. Okay, so if self is clicked equals true, anything you want upon object being clicked. So yeah, so in here you'll do all your code, and it will happen only when it's clicked. Okay, and I guess at the end of the code you will do something like self is equal false, you know. But at this point it's all up to you, right? You can have it to where you click an object, and that object for the whole level will constantly follow your mouse around and drop health potions that can heal the player or hurt the enemy if the enemy touches it. I mean, the creativity is all you at this point, but essentially you have the system down. So the system is basically, you make a game object, you call it mouse or something. Inside of there, you make sure you have a reference to that game object's current transform component. Okay, the transform component. You can do this if you want to, it's optional. Then inside of update, you want to make sure you keep this mouse object up to date in its position based on where the mouse is on the screen. Okay, and you want to make sure that the mouse the mouse position will be converted to the world, I guess you can say the world position of this object. Alright. Then you make a method called onTriggerStay2D, or whatever you want it to do, but essentially onTriggerStay2D. Okay. Important. This is important. You want to make sure you store the object that you collided with into a variable. This will just start future cheats or anything like that. It just prevents it. Then after you do this, you simply go ahead and check if the player is pressing the left mouse button or the right mouse button or whatever, right? It can be if the player is pressing E, maybe their mouse just needs to be over the object, then they have to press E. You will simply just get the button down, key down, and check E. Or if you're using the new input system, you'll just check that button. Alright, then inside, you have to tell the object that you clicked on or that you pressed the button on that it has been clicked. And then in the object, not in the mouse object, in the object that is able to be clicked, that's where you'll set up all your logic. Any object you want to be clickable has to have some type of boolean here, true or false, or something that can tell this object has been clicked. You can try doing public. When I tried public, I was getting some issues, so that's why I made it private and created some kind of custom get setter here. But if it works publicly, then you won't have to do this. You can just do it all from this one line. But once you do that, everything should work. So we're going to go ahead and test it real quick by putting this, this game object dot get component sprite render enable equals false. Alright, so let's go back to here. Let's go ahead and I guess save it. We'll click play. I can't see anything, but let's just yeah, hold on. -10 plus 10 0 0. Oh, I probably should put the wall on 0 axis or 0 in depth. Okay. So yeah, it's moving around with the mouse. Oh. I think I know why. Other dot game object get wall click. So if someone is there is true, if this equals true, this game object dot get component equals false. Okay, so let me look at my code. No, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Second. I probably should just do this. Yeah, okay. Kind of wish there was an easier way for me to see this stuff in game, so let's click on the wall. Oh, come on, I'm trying to go to sleep. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me just look real quick and see what's going on, because this really shouldn't be happening. his trigger. Oh. I kind of forgot about the collider. Okay, so on the wall, put a collider. It can be a trigger, it can be a collider, it doesn't matter. It just needs to be a collider. Okay. So now we can come in here. There we go. It left. Now, chances are it will be easier to control, but hey, I don't have it small or nothing, so yeah. But you get it, alright? It works. So essentially, do remember the object that you want to be clickable needs to have a collider. It can be a collider or it can be a trigger, so that I can show you that a trigger will work as well. So it can be a collider or a trigger, so on, etc. So alright guys, there you have it. That video took way too long, man. I'm trying to go to sleep. If maybe somehow this wasn't explained that good in some weird way, just let me know, and then later on today I will actually make a better tutorial. I just found this out and I have been trying to figure out how to do this for so long. And I was like, good, I found this out. I know other people trying to figure something like this out as well, considering the fact that people has been asking this for 3 years and nobody really had a simple solution for a 2D game. So here you go. You can pause the video, check out the code. This right here is the mouse object code. This right here is the clickable object code. So any object we want to be clickable, there we are. Alright guys, it's been fun, it's been awesome. Okay, well, it hasn't been fun, I'm like tired, but it has been intriguing and interesting how this workaround actually works. Very, very good. Much better than I thought it would. So yeah, hope you enjoy this, and most importantly, hopefully this answers some questions on how to somewhat detect a mouse click in your game. Alright guys, I'm going to sleep. Take care.